Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Podcast, NFL Week 5 picks, player props, all of it. Very happy to have Dieter back on the show here. We skipped a week, but we're back in action for week 5. Like I said, we did super well last time, Papa Dietz. 12-6. I was just telling you. How are you feeling about how we did and what that means for us moving forward?
Double your unit size, everybody. Make sure that you just put it all on Papa Dietz and Joshy Lander.
You know it. Yeah, we're going to come through again for you. I feel good about it. I am going to read them because even if you just blindly put a full unit and mismanaged your bankroll, because you shouldn't do that.
No, please don't.
You still came up more than 6 units on the day there. A very, very nice haul. I'm going to run through it really quick. Picks that we hit. Pats -2.5. Mac Jones under passing yards. Ramondre Stevenson over rushing yards. Jerome Ford over receiving yards. Jalen Warren over receptions. Zach Wilson under passing yards. The Colts were our money team. Got them +8.5 and the first half money line, which Dieter told you to take. Sam Howell over 12.5 rushing yards. Almost had it in the first quarter, like we also predicted, but got it by the second quarter. Russell Wilson over 230.5 yards in a blowout game. They got smashed, but still got over that cleanly.
That's a 70-pointer.
Yep. Jerry Jeudy over 48.5 receiving yards, and Zay Flowers receptions. The ones we missed, Zay Flowers didn't get his yards. He was at 48. We took him over 48.5. Ferguson did not get in the end zone. He continues to just be weird there.
Yep.
Zeke did not get in the end zone. Washington got blown out, so everything was wrong there. A couple bets that we had wrong, and Roschon Johnson got 11 yards. We needed him to get 12. Whatever. Really, really solid week.
That's a lot of wins right there.
Right?
Even the losses sounded like wins to me.
They felt like wins, except for in my wallet where they didn't feel like that.
Right,
But let's run through sides and totals for week 5. So I'm going to kick it off with a teaser so I can talk about a 2-for-1 because these lines are begging me to tease them. And I was doing this work going like, yeah, I'm hitting that. Oh, wait, I'm going to hit it again because I just like it so much. So I'm taking the Dolphins -6.5 on a tease because I get them 6 points less.
Yep.
And Detroit is -4 because they're still -10 right now. There's no hook there. So stays at 10, get it to 4. There's 2 things, and I'll run through a few things with it, starting with Miami, why I love them. Come on, man. I mean, we're talking about the Giants. They're a bottom 3 team in the league to me at this point.
Abysmal offense and average defense at best.
At best, offense, to add to your point, 30th in offensive DVOA, 29th in defensive DVOA. Their passing offense, EPA, in terms of expected points and yards and everything, dead last. Their rushing offense is a little bit better than their passing offense, but who cares? Because they are they are dead last in terms of game script this season. They're at -14.4 points per game is what they're usually losing by at any point in a football game. Right. They're losing by more than 2 touchdowns, more than they're not losing by that amount throughout the season so far. So there's nothing to like there. Daniel Jones is 35th in time to pass. His protection percentage is at 69%. Nice. Which is good for 35th, which means there's 32 teams in the league. If you go in and play quarterback on any team that's not the Giants, you're going to have more time to throw than Daniel Jones has to throw. That's how bad this offensive line is. It's a complete turnstile. If you want me to tell you about Miami, they're really, really awesome, but they have a vulnerable defense. Who cares? They're playing the Giants.
Yeah.
Before I move on to Detroit, any thoughts about that one?
No, I'm with you. Saquon might be back for this game. That could help. This is a good tease opportunity because the line right now, as I'm looking at, is 11.5. There's not a lot of games that roll up to 11.5. There are key numbers, and then there are just weird numbers, and this is a weird number. So anything you can do, I'm the man with the alternate lines. I would have played this down, not all the way to teaser. I would have played it to 7.5.
Okay,
which again, weird number, but it's just where it's at for me. Yeah, you also have to take into account narrative. I know that narrative gets poo-pooed on a lot of these betting style podcasts, but you and I, we understand that the narrative matters. And I got my pick of the week is totally narrative based. But with the Dolphins, this is a bit of a flip to that. The Dolphins, they just got smoked in Buffalo, and they were riding high. And I don't think they particularly played a terrible game, at least on offense. But on defense, they got smoked. And that's where they're going to lose games. They're clearly not going 72 Dolphins and running the table anymore. But if they want to be a Super Bowl contender, they got to tighten up on that side. At the same time, you know that there's some pent-up frustration. And the New York Giants, as good as any team in the NFL at this given moment, to take out some serious frustration. Also like to factor in, I like to bring in the weather a little bit. This is one of those ripe you're going to stand in the sun for 3.5-hour games for the Miami Dolphins. 1 o'clock kickoff Eastern time. I know that the days are getting a little bit shorter, but it's still early enough. New York Giants are going to be cooking on that sideline. I know they'll have I bet the Dolphins are wearing the white uniforms. They're going to force the Giants to wear the blue ones, taking a little bit more heat absorption. If this game is close going into the fourth quarter, I would expect Miami to win by 2 scores. I honestly think that this might be a slow, drag it out, get it done at the end sort of a game. At the absolute worst, I just can't envision a world where the New York Giants and Daniel Jones are able to outscore the Miami Dolphins. And as much as we talk about defense, the whole name of the game is just outscore the other team. That is the ultimate goal. 11.5 is a weird number. I'd bring it down a little bit, but I love the teaser pick.
Yep. Yeah. I teased it from 12.5 to get it under the touchdown, but I like your thought process, which is just 2 scores. So 7.5 is still 2 scores.
Yep.
I still see 8 as a quality number, especially obviously with the amount of 2-point conversions that go on, which is in your favor. Plus the idea of any kind of backdoors at the end, down 11, needing, if you're down 11 or something, you get the 3, right?
It doesn't feel like a backdoor situation for me because of the Giants' inability to do the thing where you throw the ball and catch the ball. That seems bad. And also, again, as I mentioned, they're going to be cooking all game. They're just going to be roasting in the sun. And it just doesn't feel like one of those games where the Dolphins get up big and then the Giants claw it back. I could see it being ugly for a while because the Dolphins don't take the Giants seriously and then putting their foot on the gas late. But the other way around, I don't see the back door.
I don't. There's so much working against it. So the last 3 points that I'll make. 1, Tyreek Hill is going to be left in at least single coverage, maybe double, but he needs triple. So there's nobody like Adoree Jackson, great athlete, doesn't matter.
Cooked.
Wink's going to be sending everybody. So as you know, so that leaves one-on-one matchups on the outside. Mm-hmm. Good night. Braxton Berrios could go off in this one. Who knows? The second point.
Do we have a prop on Braxton Berrios?
I'm sure that we do.
If you can get over, I can't imagine they're going to. If I had to guess, off the top of my head, they'll put him at 27.5 receiving yards.
You're 5 off. It's 32.5, but that's a great guess.
Yeah, I would have loved it at 30. I'll take the 32.5 because I'm not committed now emotionally.
And you could go ahead and shop it. Friendly reminder. So
good call.
DraftKings is showing me 32.5. There's plenty of places.
Especially too. I'd be interested to see if those change by Sunday. If the Chase Claypool of it all gets involved, maybe the markets get a little spooked. I don't know how much action there is on Braxton Berrios props, but these are the little margins that you can find in the game sometimes.
People are just rushing to their phones to bet on Braxton Berrios rushing or receiving.
Honey, shut up! I'm putting on a Braxton Berrios prop.
Now, baby, I gotta get back and hit Berrios more.
Stop kissing me. We have Braxton Berrios props.
Of course, but it doesn't matter. None of it matters because Jones has no times to throw. The Dolphins are vulnerable on big plays. Guess what the Giants can't do? Throw past. He doesn't even have time to throw it past 15 yards, first of all. Second of all, his top deep threat is Darren Waller, who forgot how to catch balls. So
it's brutal.
It's easy on that one. And the other one is Detroit, who I just want to spend 1 second saying is better than I think it's time that everyone really took them seriously. They have a top 5 offensive and defensive.
Is that where you're at? They're post buzz. They're now a known reliable entity.
I don't think they're there yet. I'm saying they should be.
Okay.
I think we have a couple more weeks, and I don't think they're going to get the note, the necessarily recognition they need or deserve.
Books love them.
Books do. They're high up there but they're playing the Panthers this week, which is another reason why I think even if they beat the Panthers by 14, everyone's going, well, yeah, you beat Bryce Young at home against a bottom tier team in the league. So I still don't think they're going to get the necessary flowers. What I'm looking at is the way that they win, which is dominating both lines. Newsflash, that's where you win football games and lose them, is in the trenches. It sounds cliche, but if you can't block, it's just it, right? And if you get to the quarterback, that's it. That's the name of the game. So with the way that they do that, yeah. So are you as high on the lines? Because the weapons we don't need to necessarily go into. We know the weapons.
It's very hard for me to discount it, right? We're dealing with 20-something years of preconceived prejudice, and it's tough. It's also tough because their quarterback doesn't inspire. He's good. He's probably pretty good. He's not great. We all know that. I don't think you need to be great to be reliable. I'm a little bit concerned that the interceptions have started to show up for Jared Goff. And in the circumstance, they were pretty big interceptions, and the Lions have gotten away with it. That doesn't matter this week. This week should be a walk in the park. The Panthers are a laughable operation right now. I don't know if that's going to continue or not. Frank Reich coming over from Indianapolis, where things were just going wonderfully. I mean, just nailing it. So they got a quarterback who could theoretically die on the field at any moment, and a head coach that left one dysfunctional organization to now take over this second one. They don't have the talent around them. There might be some value in some low level like DJ Chark props for some backdoor stuff, but like the Lions, I think the Lions have to be treated like a top 5 team in the NFL. And this is the frustrating part. This is how sharp the books are. Like they've been all over it since week 1. The last time I think we had value on the Lions was in that game against Kansas City. Yep. I took it, and it hasn't anchored me or anything to the concept of the Lions. And in fact, it's probably, it probably emboldened the books a bit too much for the next couple of weeks. This is not a crazy line. I mean, there's an easy world where this is a 2 touchdown win. I think that's much more likely than a 1 touchdown win at 9.5 as I'm seeing it currently on FanDuel. I feel like this is going to be your safest bet of the week if you're teasing it.
Yep, totally. And I'm in a pick'em league. I told you with a buddy where we make 5 picks, etc. Yeah. And we get to lock the line as soon as it opens, and then that's what we get to bet the rest of the week. And -8.5, knew at the time that it came out, it was going to go
definitely going up
to double digits. And it's 10 in some places, so you can get down to 4. If it's 9.5. Happy to take it at tease it, but like also happy to hit that straight, to be honest with you. There's really nothing that scares me about either of those 2 games in the tease. So
also in Detroit. And I think that we need to take into consideration that Detroit's a full 3-point venue right now, especially as we get deeper into the season, obviously a dome. But right now, I mean, it's going to be, I think the temperatures are about to cool down, but that place is bumping. You have years of pent-up frustration, just as we have years of prejudice. They're all about it. And on third downs for a rookie quarterback, I don't want to be in an environment where the sound bounces off the ceiling. I want to be in an empty stadium where I can hear my thoughts. This guy has been Bryce Young. Maybe he's a good quarterback. I don't think we're ever going to find out with the Carolina Panthers.
Not on the Panthers.
It's a tough watch, and I imagine that this is going to be a tough watch for anyone who doesn't have a Lions ticket.
And it's the home crowd, and it's Jared Goff way better at home as a line. Since he got to Detroit, his numbers are very notably.
The man loves domes. What can he say?
He loves dome. And then the other thing would be, I think we can always, not always, but I'm ready to just continue fading Bryce Young. Like maybe he is, like you said, but I don't know. Like even in that,
I'd rather be sadly surprised.
Precisely. And I think that might happen twice if 3 times is the ceiling for the amount of times I'm going to fade Bryce Young this year, and he's going to surprise and cover. But it continues to be under a touchdown. Last week, Kirk Cousins did his very best to ruin any bets on a -4.5 for the Vikes over this team. And Bryce Young fumbled in the fourth quarter to go ahead and seal the 8-point victory. Yeah. And that's what I continue to bank on is like fading these bad quarterbacks. So let's move past that one. The other game that I feel really confident about is the Cardinals and the Bengals. Like I have identified Arizona as a middle of the pack team that's like between 15th and 21st in that range in this. Like I'm willing to defend that.
I get you. No. I don't think it's an absurd concept. I think they're very well coached. I think they play really well on defense. I think the offense has a bit of spunk.
Agreed.
I'm not convinced that they're going to put 30 points on the board at any point this year, and I'm not convinced that this defense is so good that it won't allow its fair share of 28-point games. But Bengals situation, it feels like they're going to do a full season of must-win games and come out with 7 of them. Like,
love that.
They're 3-point favorites on the road at Arizona. The calf thing is bad. It's really bad. It's probably in everyone's best interest that Joey Burrow just shuts it down forever. And then we come back next year. There's a lot of bad vibes coming out of there. But this is a legit must-win game against a team that is better than expected. At the same time, beatable, eminently beatable, home dogs. And I have a very hard time betting on either one of these teams in either direction, especially with the field goal as the separation. But you're in on Arizona here.
I'm in on Arizona. I should be clear. I can still get them at 3.5. I am seeing some 3.5s depending on which book you have.
Get that hook.
If I get that hook for Arizona at home with a team that is running the ball very well against a team that can't stop the run in Arizona, I'm great with that. I have Cincinnati with this iteration of Cincinnati. I have them behind the Cardinals in power rankings. That defense is Swiss cheese for the Bengals. It's not just not
their
good.
safeties are gone and they don't stand a chance.
That's it. And you know what Arizona has? Safeties. And so that's why they're way better against the pass than they are against the run. I haven't believed in Joe Mixon for the last 2 to 3, at least 2 seasons, probably 3. So
a lot of running into the back of the line of scrimmage.
Just a lot of it. And there's not a great line of scrimmage there. T. Higgins is out. And like I said, I think James Conner, who I'll talk about as well, might have a really, really nice day. Certainly going to take some over on his props. I think Arizona's going to be able to get to Burrow, who obviously can't escape the pocket at this point. If you get the 3.5, fine. If you have the 3 and you have it juiced down, a little bit juiced towards the Cardinals, go ahead and buy a half a point and take the hook. If you want, I'm going to play it straight, and I'll even hit the 3 because I feel comfortable with the field goal. But the Bengals have shown me absolutely nothing to make me feel confident. The one game that they won, I was like, they shouldn't have won that game.
It's true.
Matt Stafford just got like 13 first downs in that game. You shouldn't have won that game. That's absurd. So yeah, that's where I'm not 13 first downs in the first half, by the way, is what I meant, not in the game. So yeah.
No. I have a skepticism about both of those teams that I don't think is going to be solved by that contest. The game that I'm looking at this week is like clear as day. I'm not going to watch it, but it is just obvious. And that is the 9:30 a.m. Eastern time London game. Jacksonville Jaguars, Buffalo Bills.
Thought you were going there.
The Bills are 5.5 point favorites, and I am pounding the Jags.
You don't think they should be? Yep.
I do not think that. Listen, if this game was being played in Buffalo, it'd be an 8-point line, maybe 7. If this game was being played in Jacksonville, you can do the math. This game is being played in London, England, where the Jacksonville Jaguars have been hanging out for a week because they played in London, England last weekend. You know where the Buffalo Bills played? Buffalo, New York, playing against a Miami Dolphins team that took up a lot of their mental energy because that's just how the Dolphins do. And then they had spent all week before they got on a flight across the goddamn Atlantic Ocean.
Big ocean.
They have heard all week that, in fact, they're the best team in the AFC. I have a hard time believing that this Buffalo defense, which has been immense and fantastic and deserves its plaudits, is actually that good. I have a hard time believing that the Jacksonville Jaguars, who really let their foot off the pedal there for a stretch, are, in fact, not as respectable as they were last year. I think they're just as good of a team, if not better, when I watch them. I think that this is just ripe for a letdown. And I know it's already getting caked in a little bit. I know that number is being reflected by the books at 5.5.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking Jacksonville to win outright as a ticket. I'm taking Jacksonville 5.5 all day, every day if I can. I don't know where the number would have to be for me to feel uncomfortable with it. I mean, legitimately, we'd have to get under 3 points because at that point, I might as well just take the money line. I can get the Jags at 194 right now with the Bills coming off of a body blow game, even though they won it outright, right? That was an emotional tide of a game. Hearing all this nonsense in their ear, a defense that's really good, but I don't think great, that's playing great. This is just the ultimate having to go to England, ultimate foot off the pedal game. If they were both traveling, I'd have a different stance, perhaps. It'd feel a little bit more even, but they're not both traveling. Jaguars have been hanging out for a week. They're acclimated. I do that trip all the time. Maybe not from the East Coast, but all the time. Dude, it's brutal. It's brutal. It takes you a week. And the Jaguars are going to be the only ones who show up to that game. Don't forget either that the Bills last year, they had that just inexplicable loss to the Jaguars. Jaguars have the Bills number, and I don't expect that to change, especially when this is just an emotional letdown game, if not a physical letdown game for Buffalo. So pound the Jags.
Pound it. Deep, like, I'm not going to call it a lock of the week because that's already
No, it's
taken.
bold. It's bold for lock of the week.
Yeah, I can't. I can't. I think I would totally get trademarked there if I tried that. So let's go with Dieter's pick that he just made. That I would agree. And the I'm really basing this on last week too. I loved how you were talking about the Colts, and we were both on it together. And this one, that's kind of where I my starting point is like, all right, well, where's everybody? Just everybody and their mom and their Uncle Sal and everybody else. Where are they at right now? And it's Buffalo's the best team in the AFC. Chiefs barely beat the Jets. Zach Wilson outplayed Mahomes. The Eagles are not the Eagles, so maybe it's the best team in the league. The 49ers haven't played anybody, and that, like you said, that's all they heard. That's all we've heard. Dude, going to London matters. Like, it takes a week to adjust, and I think they've been there for a long time.
We go crazy for a 3 time zone change. If you go from East Coast to West Coast, West Coast to East Coast, we go crazy for it. And by the way, the numbers haven't been as strong because I do think the books have figured it out to a degree. But you were able to get a 2-point margin, I think, for a decade off of that.
Yeah.
And that's just going East Coast to West Coast. And that's going, I mean, you're going across the ocean to, it's a 5-hour time change. It's 8 hours from here in the Pacific time zone. It's a 5-hour time change from the East Coast.
Yeah.
It's the longest plane ride you will take all year.
Yeah.
It's an environment that is wholly foreign. Right. So it's not just hey, you have to go hang out at the Hilton in Santa Clara and wait for the game. This is, oh, Johnny, good to see you, mate. It's a lot more than that. You can't just go in and out. You want to do something in London. You want to hang out in London. They're screwed. They're screwed. It's a bad game for them.
I concur. I'm glad you said that you would take the money line there. I'm happy to ride with you on that one, honestly. And I'm going to show this to my other co-host, Nate, who was in the picks pool with me, wants to take Buffalo. And I'm just like, nah, man, putting the foot down on this one, brother. I know we have to agree, but that's not happening. So,
okay. I got another pick for you.
All right. Give me
Kansas City -3.5 at Minnesota.
It's too easy.
It's just, the Vikings are awful. The Vikings are awful.
I concur.
They got to win. Who did they beat?
Bryce Young.
Bryce Young, who was bumbling and stumbling and fumbling all the way to the end. I mean,
they scored 21 points with a defensive touchdown. So
it is laughable how bad the Vikings are. Their offense can put up some points. There's backdoor scenarios here.
Yeah. We
talk about, Andy Reid after bye weeks. We talk about Andy Reid as one of the greatest coaches of all time. At what point are the books going to give him some damn respect here and bump this thing up to 5.5 where it should be because of the quality of their opponent in a dome? So home field advantage is only noise, right? You don't have to deal with, not that anything is really of terrible issue right now in early October, but you don't have to deal with anything cold or, problematic. Patrick Mahomes is still that dude. The Jets defense is really good. The Jets were playing with their hair on fire. Taylor Swift was in the house. How couldn't you? You have Zach Wilson playing at the highest level of his life. That feeds the team. It brings more energy. And yet the Chiefs still pull it out. I think they're going to Rashee Rice a lot. I think Travis Kelce isn't going to be bracketed in this game because they don't have anyone to actually bracket him. I think the safeties for the Vikings are cooked. Harrison Smith has been done for 2 years. Their linebackers are slow and cannot open their hips. And I think Andy Reid, who they won a game, and now the narrative this week, the flip side, of course, of Buffalo is, not that good, not that impressive, bad stuff. Are the Chiefs actually frauds? These guys feed off of that stuff just as much as teams feed off of hearing good stuff about them.
Sure.
It's just, I can't imagine Kansas City doesn't just lay the wood on Minnesota. And while Minnesota might get some numbers and some stats, that Kansas City defense is sneaky good. They're not getting enough respect. And the offense will figure it out. It's not worth betting against them. Yeah. It's not worth it. They'll figure it out. There is talent on that offense. It will get parsed together. And a lot of the early season is having to try things out just to figure out what doesn't work. And I think we're going to see that with the Jets this week as well, where you stop running Dalvin Cook. It's over.
Right.
His last name is indicative of his performance. It's you can't do it.
Yep.
You have two really good running backs other than Dalvin Cook. Give them the ball. And I do think that New York is a formidable team this week, and I might even take them over the Broncos. That's a different conversation. I just think that Kansas City, okay, they've tried out Kadarius Toney. They've tried out Sky Moore. They've tried out, it's going to be Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who isn't great, but is at least steady. It's going to be Travis Kelce. I think it's going to be Rashee Rice. And they're going Isaiah Pacheco, first and second down, baby. Let's rumble.
Yeah.
This is so similar to last year. Oh, is Kansas City's offense any good? We don't really know. They figure it out. It's Andy Reid. The talent's there. Don't worry about it. And do worry about Minnesota. I know they got the win, but they suck.
No, that win doesn't inspire any confidence in Minnesota. The line is small. Perception, I don't quite get it. I would agree. Where I go with this is like Kansas City doesn't cover, but it's a different story.
But, Kansas City doesn't cover when you have this, when they're always getting 7.5, 8.5.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. Right.
Like 3.5.
They don't score. They don't
cover the cover.
Right. Agreed. I would agree there. I mean, I think there's a lot more disparity than 3.5 between these two teams. I think I want to take under 295.5 for Kirk because of how much I believe in this Chiefs defense, this 5th rated pass defense. I would just say that he's still capable of being down. There's no better quarterback when he's down 3 to 4 scores in the history of the NFL than Kirk Cousins.
Unbelievable.
So, him to get like 250 still feels right, but 295.5, I would still lean under. There's no way I would take an over on that because I would be less than surprised if he enters the fourth quarter with 150 yards passing and leaves it with 298. You know what I mean? So it's all within the real realm of possibility there. I love your confidence in it, and I'm going to back you on it. I would just say that I have nothing else to add. I think that Minnesota is as bad as we think they are, and just because Minnesota, the Chiefs didn't cover against the Jets team last week, like you said, everything else comes into play. So, can I move us on to player props, or do you have one more side?
Well, I have one more, and I'll be quick.
Oh no, yeah, by all means.
Kenny Pickett has been bad when he's been healthy. Why are we picking him to be good when he's injured? 4.5 is a laughable line. The Steelers are not a good football team. This is it. They got to pack it in. And I think Baltimore has figured some stuff out here. I know they're injured to high heaven, but I think Baltimore has figured some stuff out. Lamar looked really good last week. 38 on the total. I'm avoiding it, but I'd take Baltimore minus 4.5 on the road all day, every day. Forget that divisional crap. It's quarterback v. quarterback in this modern age. And I'll take Lamar Jackson over Kenny Pickett 1,000,000 times in a row if I have to.
Even with Kenny Pickett having, Tomlin on the sideline behind him with that trend stuff,
he has Matt Canada in his ear, so that seems like a problem.
And this is why I don't care about trend stuff, man. I'm sorry. Like, I get that Mike Tomlin is a difference maker. You can afford him however many points per game that he is worth to his team, and I'll probably agree with you. I still don't care. Everything in this, the only thing that you could have said to me about this game that would have been like, oh yeah, if Baltimore's defense was exactly what it was last year before Roquan Smith got there, I would be worried about it. I'm not worried about it anymore. And this team is what it's been. It's not just been a top 5 defense this year. It's been a top 5 defense since the trade last year, or the signing last year in like week 10. And that's it. That's all I need to know. This is not a defense that you can walk all over. One offense can move the ball. One defense is decent. I don't need to know anymore. So yeah, you've got me on your side on that one. For
4.5. I mean, that's just like, what game are you expecting to watch here? How do you think this goes?
People keep wanting to bet on the Steelers, and I am just so happy to fade that with them. That
you have to do it. It's honestly, even once you get proven wrong, you keep doing it.
And I was gonna throw another bet out this time on like, maybe the Falcons. I do like, and I still feel okay about it with them because I think we're overriding the Texans.
I do.
But I'm not betting on Desmond Ridder. I'm not betting on Desmond Ridder the same way I'm not betting on who we were just talking about, who literally just left my mind, but. Kenny Pickett. Sorry, Kenny Pickett. Yeah, there's so many bad ones. How am I supposed to remember which one it was? And people are like, well, what if Mitch Trubisky plays? Like, well, then that's better for them probably. What do you mean?
How do you feel about the total at 41.5 in the Texans game? This seems like an over spot to me.
It does because the thing is we got a bad rushing defense versus a team that runs the ball all the time, right? The Falcons running the ball. The Falcons' pass defense is pretty good. It's actually like it's sixth in pass DVOA.
There's a lot of game script stuff that's involved in that, though.
If CJ Stroud doesn't have the ball very often and you limit his efficiencies because your pass defense is that good, I would agree. It's once again, it's like, oh man, all the numbers point to this except for that means I have to bet on Desmond Ridder.
Yeah, no, I think I like Atlanta -1.5 gun to my head. I think I like the over though. I do.
Interesting.
Atlanta's defense, like, tell me why I should be inspired by them.
You shouldn't.
At least Houston doesn't have the dudes, but like they fly on defense and offensively. They're running the Shanahan system. Like we've talked about Stroud. Like it looks awesome. It is awesome. They got dudes. You get an offensive line there, and it's game on.
They don't have.
But yeah, I think Atlanta's a better team. I think that they're just going to have to put up some pretty serious points. I think the Desmond Ridder, if it all does kind of screw it up, go into player props.
Yeah, I know. It's sad because like I really like that team, and Bijan is, oh Lord, he might be the second best running back in the league, especially with Nick Chubb down. But like, yeah, it's tough to when you can just single cover every wide receiver, and plus Arthur Smith doesn't throw to his wide receivers or his best targets.
He finds fantasy football and betting to be offensive to him in his billionaire ways.
He hates it. Here comes Jonnu Smith down your throat. Play a props. I'm just going to read them all out. We'll do a little talking about them. I got to get my hair cut in like 30 minutes. So like, we'll rush through them, but whatever. This is important. Kyle, cut that in post. Play a props. DeAndre Hopkins over 50.5 receiving yards, over 4.5 receptions. You could throw in there as well. I'm just talking about the 50.5 receiving yards. I think he gets there with the receptions. Plus 205 on a touchdown for Nuke. I think he gets in this week for the second one. Like I said, I'm running through it. Breece Lightning, longest run, over 16.5 yards, over 60.5 rushing yards for Breece Hall. He is no longer on a minutes restriction or whatever, carries restriction, pitch count, whatever you want to call it. Danny Dimes, I'm going with him at over 218.5 passing yards. He's going to be throwing
it the back door.
I am. I'm going to say he's going to at least get some yardage. More than that, I like the 37.5 rushing yards for Danny Dimes. Whether he wants to or not, he will be flushed out of a pocket because he has the high school football team offensive line in front of him. Devon, Achane, don't call him Achane, over 49.5 rushing yards. I'm going to play a little PPD, player performance double, for him to score a tutty, plus the Dolphins money line. Bijan Mustard Robinson plus 115. I can't believe you still get an anytime touchdown for Bijan at plus 115. That's going to end soon. Tyler Algier went from starting the season with a 54% snap share down to 27% in the last game. It is Bijan's backfield. David Montgomery over 71.5 rushing yards. The touchdown is just so nothing anymore because he scored 3 of them on national television, and that really hurt. If you have Prime, hopefully at this point, national television. But the tutty for him now is at like minus 140. 2 touchdowns is plus 285. You might be able to find a plus 300. So I don't know what you want to do with that. You're nixing that one. We'll come back to it in a second. James Conner, my boy, over 60.5 rushing yards. Book that shit against this Bengals bungling defense. I could go into a lot of stuff with them. Do any of those stand out to you before I do?
I love the Conner pick. I do question any Danny Dimes pick right now on the basis of he hasn't run. They've needed him to, and he hasn't. And I'm starting to wonder if $40 million might be behind that.
They're not calling the designed runs for him. I'm going to hope that that's because Saquon hasn't been in there and no one's scared of Matt Breida anyway. If you try an RPO,
yeah, that's fair.
But like, they haven't. I don't know that they're going to. I just don't think he's going to have a choice. If he's going to get flushed out 7 times, the 37.5 yards, he's averaging 43 at this point. He's failed to do this. I'll go over this number once. It still feels like an opportunity where it's like, my sneaky theory is that Dable is just like, I don't really care if Danny Dimes gets hurt. What's the worst that happens? He's not my quarterback anymore. It was not my money. Like,
yeah, it's his salary cap he's got to manage, though. It's pretty brutal out there.
That's true. Let me rescind the passing yards, though. I'm still going to take. Do you prefer the passing or the rushing over?
I would prefer the rushing over.
Though you don't like either.
It's a pretty sizable number.
Yeah.
The passing one, I just wouldn't touch the passing stuff.
You're right,
because I think it's really game script dependent, and I think that regardless of the game script, Danny Dimes is going to have to run. Brian Dable. I think Brian Dable just has to admit that, like, it's time. But I don't know, man. That's a weird game. That's a weird game. I don't know if I want to touch. I don't know if I want to invest any of my money.
Yeah.
In the New York Giants football team.
Agreed. We're gonna go ahead and strike the Danny Dimes passing one from the record. I'm gonna hold court later to decide if we're doing the rushing prop here, but that'll be in the tweet and in the whatever else. So
yeah,
anything else in there, Sandy? I got Achane 49.5.
Love the Achane.
Don't
forget that Raheem Mostert fumbled twice last week, I know that's Mike McDaniel's guy, and he is very good. But they're riding Achane. This is Achane's backfield.
It's exactly what it is. That's what it comes out to.
That seems like a pretty good thing to be when you're playing the New York Giants.
And it seems like a pretty good fantasy pickup, or when you're on a team that's going to score 30 to 40 points per game that it plays. So.
You do have to be a bit careful though, and if you can get any kind of yards, do that as opposed to strict rushing yards, because Miami will get rushing yards for its receivers and passing yards for its running backs, and kind of mess up some of those props. But it does sound like that's being taken into account with Achane, and he's the real deal. He has a chance to be the best fantasy football waiver wire pickup in forever.
Ever. Since Ronnie Brown and the Wildcat, maybe.
Cool. Don't start me.
Oh, I loved it. So, are you good at everything else? Like Breece Lightning, I think we were somewhat in agreement on.
Gotta be.
Yeah.
Robert Saleh's too smart to keep doing the Dalvin Cook thing. It's over.
That's why he said that. That's why he proclaimed it. Nuke. Are you scared of Tennessee? Indianapolis's defense has just gone down the shitter, but Buckner might play Shaq Leonard as well. That's what scares you, because they've been much worse without those guys up front.
No Nuke. No, I can't. I cannot touch the Tennessee offense.
No Nuke, friends.
I mean, it's just what I forgot. Nuke Hopkins played for Tennessee.
Come on.
No, I knew, but he's not of that caliber anymore. And
he's not
for a minute.
No, he's not. But no, go ahead.
Control the ball.
It's true. It's a bad pass defense once you get past the front seven. But you're not wrong there.
By half to me.
Yeah.
That's just a find out the score on NFL primetime game.
Oh, without question. I ain't watching that.
I have no involvement in that game. Only sadness will come of it.
If I don't watch another AFC South game this year, it'll be too many AFC South games.
Listen, they got the Texans. Texans are fun.
I agree with that. Anything you like from that? Well, I don't want to speak about that game specifically. We talked about it for a second.
We talked about it.
The last two. One of them is from that game. The Bijan Tutty. I think we're in agreement there. Still plus 115. I think that's gonna be minus
I think that's
money.
good value.
Yeah, it's gonna be minus odds.
I think that Arthur Smith might screw you, but it's good value still.
If he does, man. And then I learned my lesson. But this is such a ripe opportunity for him.
I think that you have to ride Bijan in this one
against the Texans, man.
So. The number that I find most interesting this week as a player prop, I'll throw this in here. It's just one. Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott have the same passing yard total, more or less, at 42.5, 43.5. I don't think that the Niners' pass defense is as good as maybe you're led to believe. At the same time, I know that Dallas's pass defense isn't as good as people are led to believe. And Brock Purdy, 243.5, I think is a value this week. We saw in the playoffs, Dallas just sold out to stop the run. I think their linebackers are stiff. I think that it is just going to be a bunch of 7-yard slants and 7-yard dig routes that go for 80. And Brock Purdy doesn't have to throw it 253.5 yards to get over that number. He just has to have his receivers go that long. So
is Debo healthy?
Debo should go.
When I say healthy, I mean, is Debo going to play?
Yeah, they'll push him for this one.
Okay, I thought so.
Expectation. So
that's huge for your 80-yard slant route.
But Ayuk alone is good for $110.
Yeah.
So, and if Dallas is just going to keep putting 8 in the box, just a little swing pass over to McCaffrey on the outside.
Yep.
I think that if you're going off of last year's playoffs, there are a lot of points to be, or there's a lot of yards to be had in the passing game. The Niners were overly committed to the run. They still won, but overly committed to the run. And I think they come out with the exact opposite mindset. We've already kind of seen that a couple of times this year from them. Teams are daring Brock Purdy to beat him. He's been beating them. And it's a big number at 243.5. I'd take the over. I'd just take the over.
Can you give me 3 good minutes on that game?
3.5. Yeah.
By the way, he covers this team pretty diligently, so that's also very relevant here.
It's difficult because Dallas is a good team. I don't see them as anything close to great. I think a lot of what their reputation has been built on this year is that defense, and that defense has beaten up on some just garbage offenses, full stop. You look at some of the advanced numbers on them, they have this great point differential. Well, that's mostly defense. I mean, that's that game against the Giants, and
the Jets.
They ran it up. Whereas, the Niners played the Giants and they never felt uncomfortable for a second, so they just ran their game script. And it's a bit of a different ball game. Cowboys have this incredible defensive EPA, minus 0.34 per play. It's like patently absurd.
Yeah.
I just don't think that they've played a good offense this year. And, then you say, well, they're putting up a lot of points, but again, it's not their points. And you look at the, EPA per play on offense, and, the worst teams in the NFL: Steelers, Jets, Giants, Browns, Pats, Bengals. The Cowboys are 8th, which pretty good. They're in between the Seahawks and the Broncos. I don't know. I don't know if there's any great offenses other than maybe 4. Yeah. That'd be Miami, San Francisco, Buffalo, and I think the Chargers are a great offense.
Herbert took a step.
Even if
I think the Lions are a good offense. Lions, Cowboys, neutral field right now.
Lions, but a good game.
Good game, and that's what I need to know. That's what that helps me.
And I think this will be a good game too, just because Tony Pollard's the truth. The Cowboys are geared up for this. I have a hard time. I think that the Niners should be 4.5, 5-point favorites in this game.
Yeah.
And I'm just going down the line. I think they'll be favored in every game they play this year.
Yeah.
And they go to Philadelphia on December
3rd. They're 1A. They're like, and Philadelphia is, I'm not going to say that Dallas is close to catching them, but I put Dallas and Detroit on tier 2 in tier 3 in that conference. I put and then the first 2 tiers are 1-team tiers, because I do still think the Eagles hold an edge over those other 2, the Cowboys and the Lions. But I think the Lions have caught the Cowboys, and I think the 49ers have proven that they are a bit ahead of the Eagles until the Eagles answer some questions, because Shane Steichen's absence has reared its ugly head.
I think Jonathan Gannon's absence has been a problem for them. Fair. I think the Eagles are much closer to the Lions than they are to the 49ers right now. I would
also agree.
And I think that the Cowboys probably are smack dab in the middle. It's hard for me to separate Cowboys and Eagles, all things considered. Let's not also forget that Dak Prescott last year led the NFL in interceptions despite missing 5 games.
Yep.
Like, that's pretty hard to do, especially in an offense that they don't have the kind of explosive playmakers, with all due respect to CeeDee Lamb and Tony Pollard. They don't have the kind of playmakers. They don't run the kind of offense that can afford turnovers. And so they're massively on the upside of the turnover stuff. Their defense is awesome. It's kinetic. Dan Quinn does a great job. Mm-hmm. I just think that they have not run up against a dude this year, much less a team with like 8 dudes. And
that was the narrative against the 49ers for some reason, was, oh, this is sneaky. You guys are so on the 49ers nuts, but they did it. Well, who did the Cowboys beat?
It's absolutely true with the Niners. They have not played a playoff team yet. Fine. But they've also put up 30 in every game they've played. And if you watch those games, they're not preoccupied with running up the score to prove a point.
No.
And it's not to take away from the Cowboys in that regard. Cowboys did what the Cowboys had to do. But where is the value in the Cowboys since that game against New York? Like, they lost to Arizona. They've beaten the Giants 40-0, the Jets in the first game post Aaron Rodgers 30-10. Okay. Yep. Then they lost to the Cardinals, and yes, they beat the Patriots with Mac Jones. I don't think that's an impressive win.
Yeah. No,
I really don't.
It was all over that game.
And they piled it on. Again, good for them. I don't want to call them front runners, because I think they are of a quality that doesn't that's demeaning to them. But they're kind of front running They certainly
to be
enjoy
fair to that
leading.
point, like their defense is putting them in a position that they're on the other team's 20 every time they start their possession.
They've
So
won.
like that's
They've
an
won
aspect
3
of it.
games by blowout margins, and all 3 of those games involved, I believe, multiple defensive touchdowns.
Yeah, 2.
And the
in
one
both the
game
New
where
York
they
games.
didn't get that, the one game where they weren't just a massive win in the turnover margin, they lost to Arizona.
Yep.
Who is fine.
It's a little bit of a trap game, but no, they're still on another tier. We need to start separating these teams more adequately, like the same concept with the Chiefs and the Vikings.
This is a B+ team. This is not a Super Bowl team.
Agreed.
Full stop. And the 49ers are a Super Bowl team amongst Buffalo. Like Miami, I think I would categorize Miami has a better chance of winning the Super Bowl than Dallas. And Miami's a flawed team. And we knew that going into the Buffalo.
I would need to see more from that defense. That Miami
Agreed,
defense.
but I need to see more from the Dallas offense, and I need to.
I don't believe in it.
And I can't believe that the turnover margin from here on out is going to continue to be in the Cowboys' favor the way it is. A lot, everyone says, "Oh, defenses force turnovers." Yeah, but offenses also give them away.
Yeah.
And if you know one thing about San Francisco, it's that they're not going to lose the turnover battle.
Nope.
Not with that quarterback, not with that talent.
And not with that talent on defense. That's a huge part of it. Like Dak is ripe for some turnovers this week. I think Dak is the best game managing quarterback in the league. He doesn't get to be called like a ceiling raiser, in my opinion. It's just not how good he is anymore. He's never not had a wealth of talent around him. That offensive line, since he got there, has been one of the best in the league. So if he's able to do that
anymore, but yeah,
it might not be that anymore. And if he's forced to have to win you a game, give me that means the other team's better, and I'm good on that. So
100%. And by the way, I mean, best game managing quarterback in the NFL. It's I don't know what to do with that term, but at some point we have to say that Brock Purdy's that guy, right? If we don't want to say that Brock Purdy is somehow like an MVP candidate and some ceiling raiser, despite the fact that he's raised the ceiling of the 49ers offense since taking over.
Yep.
Just because we're holding where he got picked against him because we give way too much deference to NFL scouting departments as if they know what the fuck they're doing. Which is why, Bryce Young went 1 and,
CJ Stroud didn't.
And it's why why Chase Claypool got traded for a 2nd round pick and then less than a year later a 6th. It's why you got Kenny Pickett being the first quarterback off the board in that draft that Bryce Young. It's why Atlanta keeps riding Desmond Ridder for some ungodly reason. Like NFL teams, it's still people, and people are still
I agree. And the difference is I'm not yet ready to label Brock because I don't know what his ceiling is, and he's not there. But so that's why I'm ready to label Dak that. You see what I'm saying?
Well, we've seen enough Dak to know.
That's what I'm saying. We know what we're getting there. So
you can't be a game manager if you turn the ball over.
That's also true. But I think he's the most talented. He has the most talent of any game manager, but it may be a higher ceiling than some, but still
I'm just generally underwhelmed by Dak Prescott ever since he stopped running.
Yeah, fair.
Like 4 years ago.
Dude, I appreciate the time again, man.
Always. Anytime.
We're going to run. I'm going to track these picks for you guys. I mean, 12-6. We got to keep it going now. So we'll see how
at this point, we're quitting the main job and just going all in.
Side hustle turned full hustle, baby.
We're moving to Barbuda.
Or wherever all these offshore books are nowadays.
I'm reading the Michael Lewis book on Sam Bankman-Fried, and I'm like, I should definitely move to the Bahamas.
That's a can of worms. I might ask you to talk about that on here. We'll talk about that more later. He's well known in the betting community as well, so I don't know. Anyway, that is all the time we have for you in this one. For Dieter Kernbach, Josh Lander. So I'll talk to y'all next. Happy betting.